It's Thursday, April 14, 2022's dear. Sometimes when I'm talking to people, the conversation can get deep. Deep in that the answers to questions don't seem to come, or the questions are complex, they seem complex, and the answer doesn't seem to be anywhere to be found. I like to clear my head a little bit by slowing thoughts down. The body relaxes. The body is heavy. Suddenly can feel what's called the lungs filling with air and pushing out against the inside of the ribs. But without the words ribs and air, no words, just the sensation of the breath. So my mind is occupied with the busy work of paying attention to the senses, the breathing, the weight of the body. When that happens, noisy thoughts about my day, about problems outside the house get distant, or they stop entirely. I've dedicated about an hour a day to doing meditative and prayer style work, including making these videos. I don't schedule actual time. Before you know it, I'm preoccupied with money-making work projects. So it's noon. Somebody said to me, the gulf, it separates the knowing of the mind and the knowing from the heart is wide. They meant, yes, they know intellectually where God is, or what is true. So they said they know what is true in the universe and what is just noise of society. Intellectually, they know that, but in their heart, it's not there so much. That the gulf between the knowing where God is with the mind and the heart are separated by this gulf. So I was imagining this, remembering what that's like, being lost in thought, thinking that the place I wanted to be, place of peace, place where it's calm, where there are no questions, where God might be. That place is far away. The gulf was quite wide. I saw no way to get there. Okay. So I understood what they were saying to me. Gulf is too wide. I can't get there. So gulf is wide between the knowing where God is and the experiencing where God is, because the mind attaches to the image of the small self. The mind thinks that we are the ego self. And as long as we're attached to the image of the ego, that gulf is going to be pretty much giant. So the gulf is created by the ego. The idea that God's over there and I'm here. Or the knowing of in the mind of where God is and where peace lies. And then experiencing it. Okay, so the bridging of the gulf, or the elimination of the gulf, is going to be dependent upon the letting go of the attachment of the false self, the ego. Do you understand what that means? The mind thinks we are the ego. The experience of awakening happens when that connection is cut. The ego is cut. Okay, so that was part one. The second thing is another person, a friend of mine, I won't say he struggles with the idea of quote, who am I? But that comes up a lot repeatedly. My friend says he's done a lot of spiritual work, and he understands what's at stake with that question. Who am I? I feel the answer to that is the answer to the same answer as the first question. When I ask, who am I? What's really happening is the person that wants to know who am I is the ego. And that doesn't go anywhere, does it? It's a loop. Every time I ask the question, who am I? The ego fills in the blank, fills in all the blanks. I'm Paul. I'm white, American. I'm 65 years old. That's what the ego says. Now, in a few hours or tomorrow, I'll find out that the small self, the ego, is very unstable and it changes. So every day, who am I changes because the ego changes. It just flitters from one idea to the next. It's can't count on it. That's why that question comes up all the time. Attachment to the ego, attachment to the mind, who thinks I am the following things. It's the attachment makes that question reappear. Who am I? As long as the mind thinks it's the false self, that question won't go away. Okay. I never know if any of these sort of things are understandable. Okay, so let's finish the video. Now what are we going to do? So we know about the question, who am I? And we know that the gulf seems too wide and that we can't cross that river. So we understand the dilemma. Now what do we do? I didn't prepare anything. I don't prepare the answers for videos because the practice of making the videos is being present. And that means I don't go back in time. And I go out into the future. It's about right here, right now, the present moment. So let's do that. Let's take those dilemmas and then present them in their idea form. The gulf is too wide. The river's too wide. I can't get there. See that? The gulf is too wide. Who am I? Who am I? The river's too wide. Breathe deep. The weight of the body. Let's go into an awake state. An awake state meaning the ego moves back out of the mind, attachment to the ego is let go. Who am I? The river's too wide. Weight of the body. Thoughts stopped for a moment there. Let's have thoughts stop and then see what happens to these two statements. Okay, I'm back. Back into the thought. No. Attachment to the ego causes these questions that come up in these situations. Okay, so this practice, meditation, the prayer, this kind of prayer, the going into an awake state addresses both of these issues. The first thing is these things don't exist. When I hold who am I and the river's too wide, up into the light being an awake state of consciousness, these situations dissolve. They dissolve because the attachment to the ego self dissolves. And then the question, who am I, does not make any sense. It doesn't even exist. It's not that it doesn't make sense. It has no place in a consciousness based in the real there. Who am I? It's a question that only exists in the illusionary world. The river's too wide. I can't get to God. I can't find peace. Let's look at those words and that idea in a quiet, peaceful place. Again, those words dissolve away. Okay, that's good. What about those questions in the world of form? the world of culture. Can we answer those questions or just those questions in that kind of consciousness, and a consciousness based in form? I guess either one of these situations can be resolved without the awakening. They won't go away because we're attached to the ego. So in our normal life, let's call the life that of the body called Paul, that lives in form, paying the mortgage of the house, eating, mowing the grass, that's form. Who am I? River's too wide. Only this practice of setting out an hour a day to be in the place of the real, where it's quiet in the mind, it's quiet in this room physically also, but quiet in the mind, in a peaceful state of consciousness. Just the practice, it's the practice. You have to do something, we have to do something. We just can't read a book and then think it's going to be taken care of. But we have to practice being in that peaceful place through prayer, meditation, reading, everything, every day, an hour. And being in our groups, our spiritual groups, and doing service, volunteering at the rescue center, volunteering at the hotline center, volunteering at the church. All those things are part of the practice. Okay, that's all I have. That's all I wanted to say. Okay, I guess I have to do some money-making work. I was on vacation in Phoenix, visiting my daughter. We went to the zoo, took a lot of photographs of the birds mostly, but the rhino and the giraffe also. So when I came back after being away for a week, all my chores were still waiting for me. Sometimes I like to do my chores in a mindful way, meaning using the chores. Washing dishes is the one I do all the time. When I'm washing dishes, as part of my practice, I do it what Thich Nhat Hanh would call it mindfully, meaning I'm feeling the water and watching the water and hearing the water as it goes across the dish, and I rub the sponge and soap. Do the motion slowly, observing them and feeling them. I breathe slow and deep. And in this way, it's meditative. The mind slows, becomes one with the task at hand without adding dialogue, such as what I'm going to be doing next. I don't. Just what is happening in the moment. Focus on that. Okay.